Alright, my math friends, we are moving on into Chapter 8, and now we're going to be moving into Chapter 8.2. And the first thing we want to do with 8.2 is just give you a review lesson on how to use a protractor. I know you guys have used it before, but I just want to make sure that we know how to use it before we move further into 8.2 and do some more complicated things with a protractor. Okay, here's the protractor type that we're going to be using in class, and it may look a bit more complicated than a protractor that you're used to because we have numbers and lines all over the place. Okay, since we're moving into harder math, we're going to be using this type of protractor. This is a complex protractor. Okay, and let me explain what that means here. Alright, a complex protractor, it has numbers kind of all over the place. Okay, down here we have a ruler. Alright, and we're going to be using that later on in 8.2. And over here on the inside we have a ruler also. Okay, this ruler here is in centimeters, and this ruler down here is in inches. We're not going to be using these two rulers for this lesson. We're going to be focused on this line down here. Okay, and then all these numbers that are here off to the side, on the outside and the inside, all these different numbers, because these are going to be the angle measurements that we're going to use. Okay, now this protractor, take a look at this bottom line. This is important. This bottom line is 0 degrees, and it is also 180 degrees. Okay, it can be 0 or 180. It just depends on where you start with the protractor. Like, for example, if we start over here on this side and we're measuring an angle, we would start at 0 and we would climb all the way until we get to the very last angle we can measure, which is 180. Okay, then we have these inside numbers, and they kind of go the same way. 180 is also the same as 0, so 0 would actually start here if we're using the numbers on the inside, and we would climb the same way. Start at 0, go all the way, and here we have 170, and then our last mark would be down here at 180. Okay, it ends at 180 because it is a half a circle. A full circle is 360 degrees. If you're looking at this protractor, it's half a circle. Half a circle, half of 360 is 180. Alright, so it's going halfway around the circle. Alright, let's talk about using this thing. First, we're going to take a look at some different angle types. Okay, it's good to know the difference between the three angle categories as we start looking at the angles, because it can let you know if you get the right answer or not. First, we have an acute angle, which is any angle that is less than 90 degrees. Okay, so if this was going to be a 90-degree angle, it would look something like that, and it is any angle that's going to be smaller than 90 degrees, smaller than a right angle. And that leads us to the right angle, which is exactly 90 degrees. And then we have an obtuse angle, which is any angle that is greater than 90 but less than 180. So if we were going to put a line right here to show a 90-degree angle, it is any angle that is bigger than 90 degrees. Okay, it's good to know though, so that you can look at an angle and see what it is first before we begin to measure it. Alright, let's take a look at how we're going to use a protractor. Let's review this. I know you guys have probably done this before, but we're just going to take a look at it to find the angle measurement. Okay, so here we have angle A. We want to find out how big this angle is. Just by looking at it, we know that this is an acute angle. Okay, because it's smaller than 90 degrees, so we know that our answer has to be less than 90 degrees when we go about measuring it. Okay, so we want to place our protractor on top of this angle so that we can begin finding out what it is. So when you place a protractor on top of this angle, okay, that's what I did here. I have a snapshot of this protractor on top of the angle. Here is what you want to do. You want to line up the protractor, this 180 degree mark, with one side of the angle. Okay, it doesn't matter which side you line it up with. We could have gone with this side, but since this side was already flat and it makes our protractor nice and even, we're going to use that. Okay, so we line it up on this side, and then we put the vertex. Alright, the vertex is just the spot where the two lines come together to form the angle. The vertex goes right in the middle, and there's a hole in your protractor to place the vertex on, and it goes right there. Okay, and then we got this line that is pointing to the angle measurement. Okay, so let's jump to, now that we got our protractor placed on there correctly, okay, this line goes on the 0. Now we're going to take a look at reading this protractor. Okay, so that's step 1, putting it on there correctly. Step number 2, reading the angle measurement. Okay, so now that this angle is on here and we have the protractor on there, what we need to do is start at the side with 0 degrees, okay, which is going to be right here. We're going to start at the numbers that begin at 0. Alright, and we're going to go up here until we get to where this angle is going to be. We can tell just by looking at it that this angle is going to point at 70 degrees, but to be exactly sure, you can always put a straight edge on here. Alright, I just put a ruler on there, and you can trace that to show what it's going to be. Alright, and that hits right at 70. So this angle, the measurement of this one, is 70 degrees. Okay, and we started with these numbers over here. We didn't start with these ones over here. The reason why we started with these ones is we follow, since this line was placed on this side of the protractor, we follow that line, and that tells us which numbers to begin with. Okay, and we always start at 0. Alright, that's why we use this numbers and not these numbers over here. Alright, let's take a look at another example. This time we'll take a look at one where the angle is pointed the other direction. Okay, so here we have an angle. This time it's pointed the opposite way than what our other one was. Our other one was pointed something kind of like this here. Alright, and this one is opening the other direction. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that. The first thing we got to do is put our protractor on this angle. Looking at this angle, we also know that this angle is obtuse because it is bigger than 90 degrees. So our answer should be bigger than 90 degrees. Okay, so when placing the protractor on the angle, same thing like we did before. We got to line the bottom edge of the protractor up with one of the lines of the angle. Okay, it could have been this line, but I went ahead and just chose this line here, and then we put the vertex on the center of our protractor. Okay, and then what we're going to use, because this is the line that we lined up with, we're going to use the numbers over here on this side to get our angle measurement. Okay, so let's take a look at what numbers we're going to use on the next slide. Okay, so here we have our line on the bottom here, and the numbers we're going to use, we're always going to start at 0, so I'm not going to use these outside numbers because this starts at 180. I'm going to use the inside numbers, so right here is 0 because this line 0 and 180 is the same thing, and we're going to go follow the inside numbers to get to the measurement of this angle. Okay, and it looks like it's going to fall right into here. Just to be sure, I'm going to trace this line here with a ruler just to see what we get. Alright, and when I trace that, it looks like we're going to be right at 145 degrees. Okay, so that would be the measurement of this angle, 145 degrees. So in this case, we had to use the inside numbers for this one because that's where we started at 0 when we checked out what this would be. Alright,